Hi, Lori the Insurance Warrior here. Thank you for submitting your questions. In a way, we all have the same story. Most of you need to get to an out-of-area, out-of-state, out-of-network surgeon for VBT. And your insurer may also deny VBT as experimental or not medically necessary. In March 2005, I was in the same situation that you're in now. I had a very advanced case of appendix cancer. My life was on the line. I live in Seattle, and there were no surgeons in the western United States who knew anything about my disease. I would have to go out of state and out of network, just like you. I had a cheesy individual policy with no out-of-network coverage, a $5,000 deductible, and $16,000 annual out-of-pocket maximum. I'd lost my business. I had no income and no money. I decided that if I was going to fight the clash of the titans with my HMO, I was going to the most experienced surgeon for this in the world. He was all the way across the country in Washington, D.C. Nobody thought that I would win. I spent a month researching and writing my 23-page War document. 3 days later, the insurer called me. Well, we decided to pay for it. In October 2005, I traveled to Washington, D.C. for a 14-hour surgery and 43 days in the hospital. The bill was $347,000. My insurer paid every penny of it. I must have scared them pretty badly because they also paid my deductible, my out-of-pocket, all of it. It wasn't long before other patients started to find me and ask me to write their appeals. As of today, I have written and fought 222 life-saving appeals for others. All different insurers, all different diseases and conditions, all over the country. I've published 2 books on how to research, write, and deliver a winning appeal. In 2017, Jackie Moore contacted me. Jackie's daughter Peyton had already had VBT. The surgery had been denied for 2 reasons. Number 1, it was out of network, and number 2, it was not medically necessary. Jackie was trying to get the denial reversed after the fact. Fighting appeals after you've had the treatment is not easy. You're out of the store with the groceries, they're sending you bills, you've lost all your leverage. It took a lot of convincing before I agreed to take the case. However, I did. And we won. I believe in this surgery. I have embraced it as an issue. I have now done 4 appeals for VBT. We are not going to talk about tips and tricks today. I'm asking you to forget everything you thought you knew about insurance appeals. We are talking about a paradigm shift. No appeal was meant to lead to an approval. This is not a good faith process. The insurer would like you to fill out their 1-page appeal application, snail mail it to the post office box, and wait for them to have their way with you. If you do exactly what the insurer tells you to do, you just lost your appeal. We need to thoroughly understand what the insurer wants us to do, and then do the opposite. So what is the opposite of sending it to the P.O. box? Building an org chart for your insurance plan, finding the top 20 decision makers, digging up their email addresses and as many of their personal office phone numbers as you can find. Send out your 20 copies on the Sunday and start calling them on Monday morning. That's the opposite. This is how we win insurance appeals. The first thing that people do when their treatment is denied is to call the doctor's office. The doctor will win my appeal. The doctor is not going to win your appeal. Insurers don't care what doctors say. Most of you are in this situation because the doctor has already lost all of his appeals. If your doctor is in network for the insurance company, that means that he's bound by contract to the insurance company. He has to do what they say. He is not ideally positioned to fight the insurance company. I write appeals for doctors when their treatment is denied. They're like deer in the headlights. Your surgeon is not an expert on insurance appeals. He's an expert on surgery. The doctor isn't going to win your appeal. The insurer doesn't care if we need a treatment. They don't care if our doctor says we need a treatment. They don't care if it's the only treatment that will save our lives. There's only one question that any insurer cares about when deciding whether to pay or not. Are we required to pay for this per the terms of your contract? Every appeal is a contractual dispute. When we write an appeal, we have to prove to the insurer in a dozen different ways why they need to pay for it per the terms of the contract. You are the only one who has any power over your insurance plan because you are the one who holds the contract. Michelle Clark Lord asks, "What did I do wrong?" This is not an easy question to ask, but it provides some really good talking points. Michelle called Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida before the surgery. She asked for a gap exception, and the insurer told her she didn't need one because she had out-of-network coverage. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida paid the hospital as in-network, paid very little to the head surgeon, paid nothing to the assisting surgeon. A month later, the insurer contacted her, stating that they had overpaid the surgeon and demanding their money back. Michelle has now been threatened by a collection agent. She filed a complaint with the insurance commissioner's office. For the time being, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida has suspended their demand for repayment, and she's waiting to see what they do. Michelle asks, "What did I do wrong, and what can I do going forward?" I'm going to be tough here because we're dealing with huge bureaucracies that have no intention of paying. The first thing that you did wrong was to call up and ask for a gap exception. No insurer has ever agreed to reverse a denial or grant a gap exception by calling them on the phone. When you call them on the phone, there's no accountability. It has to be in writing. The person at the insurance company told you that you did not need a gap exception because you had out-of-network coverage. That's not true. The reason you need a gap exception is because you have out-of-network coverage. Out-of-network coverage is not much better than a denial. On a $100,000 surgery, they might pay $4,000 out-of-network. So you have to fight for a gap exception and try to make them pay as in-network. That's what it is. They lied to you. You say that you filed an appeal. How long was your appeal? If it was a page or two, you just lost your appeal. What did it say? What points did you prove? Did you prove your case with facts? And to whom did you send it? My 4 appeals for VBT were each over 30 pages of original verbiage. This is what it takes. I wouldn't expect much from any insurance commissioner. Your typical insurance commissioner just got done being an executive for an insurance company. The job of the insurance commissioner is to be a library of state insurance regulations and to tell people in your state how to get insurance coverage. That's it. But most important, they have no power over insurance companies. This is what happens when you file a complaint with the insurance commissioner. He sends a polite letter to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida saying, this person has a complaint. What do you have to say? Blue Cross Blue Shield of Florida writes back and gives all the reasons why they aren't going to pay for it. Period. There are no adverse consequences for the insurance company. So most important, what can you do going forward? You may think that you've already used up your appeal, but we can always reinvent the wheel. I have won many an appeal when people have lost all their appeals. In one notable case, the woman had lost all her appeals and her external review, and she was not only a lawyer, but a judge. I won it in 4 days. The best place to win an appeal is back with the insurance company. Write a fact-based appeal, deliver it to the top 20 decision makers at your insurance plan, and also to the top 3 executives at the insurance commissioner's office, since you got them involved. Prove with facts that they need to pay for the out-of-network surgery as in-network, per the terms of your contract. Julie Widmer asks about the gap exception. When and how can they be effective? I don't know who dropped this phrase gap exception into this group, but people are just saying it and calling up the insurance company and asking for it and not getting anywhere. It's kind of as though somebody brought you a sewing machine and some fabric and said, make a dress. If you don't know how to thread the machine, how to use your pattern, how to pin baste, how to thread the sewing machine, how to put the pieces together, you're not going to be able to use it. The reason why you need a gap exception is if you have a PPO, so you have some kind of out-of-network coverage. As I've already mentioned, out-of-network coverage is no better than a denial, because they're hardly going to pay anything. And because the doctor's out of network, he can balance bill you for anything that the insurer doesn't pay. So you have to fight for your gap exception in order to turn that out-of-network coverage into in-network. Now, in-network coverage is only about 10% better than out-of-network coverage, but hey, most doctors will accept it. The insurance company doesn't want to pay. They don't plan to pay. And if the insurer tells you that you need a gap exception, they know that either you or the doctor is just going to ask for it on the phone, and then they can say no. In order to get a gap exception, you have to write a fact-based appeal delivered to the top 20 decision makers at your insurance plan with a few eyes, outside eyes, to keep them honest. You have to prove to them that there is no equivalent treatment available in the network, and therefore they have to grant the exception. Heather Andrews has a second surgery coming up, which is out of network. The bill for the first surgery was $120,000. The insurer paid $6,000. This is typical. Out-of-network reimbursement is not much better than a denial. You filed an appeal for the first surgery and lost. I'm starting to repeat myself here. How long was that appeal? Just a page or two? What points did you make? Did you prove your points with facts? Who did you send your appeal to? When people have lost an appeal, I say study the appeal that you lost. Make a list of 20 ways that you can make it more powerful and more persuasive to the insurance company. Do your homework. Find the top 20 decision makers at your insurance plan, a few outside eyes, send it to all 20 on the Sunday afternoon, and follow up with all of them on Monday morning. Prove to them with facts that there is no equivalent treatment in the network. Chanel McCoy says, "The policy that I have will only cover out-of-state procedures in an emergency situation. Is there anything that I can do about this other than getting a different plan?" Of course there is. If I believed insurance companies when they said you didn't have coverage for something, they're denying it, it's experimental, it's not medically necessary, we only pay in the state, I would never have won any of these cases. When your insurer says something's not covered, it's not the law. It didn't come down to Moses on the mountaintop. It's just what they say. And what you say is just as powerful as what they say. Understand what your insurer says and then completely ignore it. If your appeal is good enough, delivered to the correct decision makers, and followed up by phone with the decision makers, everything is negotiable. Kelly Marco asks, should I bother appealing my awful self-funded plan? Over 80% of U.S. employees are insured under self-funded plans, and 0% of them know it. In a self-funded plan, your insurer is not paying for your medical treatments. Your employer is paying for every test, surgery, treatment that you get. And because the employer is financially at risk, the employer is the final decision maker on all medical treatments. There are no laws, no regulations, no nothing that compels your employer to pay for a particular medical treatment. Their only fear is liability. For example, if you could prove that you died because the employer denied a treatment, and then you would have to fight them in the courts for years. You don't want to do that. Just win your appeal. Most of the appeals that I win are against self-funded plans. You just need to understand that your employer is the final decision maker. Write the same fact-based, blockbuster appeal that I have described. Deliver it to the top 17 decision makers at the insurance company, and also include the top 3 decision makers at the employer. That would be the CEO of the parent company, the very top executive vice president of HR, and the top guy at your workplace. Follow up by phone with the insurance executives as usual. If it wasn't worth appealing self-funded plans, then over 80% of the employees in the United States would have no appeal rights. Of course it is worth fighting your self-funded plan. You have the same situation that many other patients have. It's the same situation that I had 15 years ago. There aren't that many true expert surgeons who get the best outcomes, no matter what you have. The surgeons who offer VBT are likely to be out of town, out of state, and out of network. Your insurer is going to believe that they don't have to pay for it. They would prefer that you pay for it. Don't let them get away with it. Do not expect the doctor, a lawyer, or the insurance commissioner to help you. You, the patient, are the only one with power over your insurance plan because you are the one who holds the contract. Research and write a fact-filled appeal document. Prove your case with facts. Deliver it to the top 20 decision makers at your insurance plan with a few carefully chosen outside eyes to keep them honest. This is how we get the treatments that we need and make our insurers pay for it. Once you win your first appeal, you will establish yourself with the insurer as a force to be reckoned with, and things will go much easier for you from then on. Thank you.